let's talk about these elected officials who privately are expressing their concern, their anger, their dismay, their loss of trust in Donald Trump. But publicly, they are standing by his side. How does that fly? You're a public official. You have an elected public role. How can you be this two-faced? And let's be honest, in this case, this is Republicans, but Democrats do it as well. And it's one of the main reasons the American people have such distrust for their electeds.
Yes, Steph, that's true. And just real quick, I mean, Donald Trump having to go to court and the Denver Nuggets winning, I don't know what I've deserved to have a week like this. I am riding high. But as far as other elected officials, what's like Groundhog Day? We've done this before, haven't we, Steph? We've been doing this for 8 years now. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Like all these people privately, the secretly concerned Republicans that we've been hearing about for so long that I wrote about, all of them privately wish they could have Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley or whoever is their preferred person, right? None of them want Donald Trump to be the nominee again, but they're doing nothing to try to stop it. They are just wrapped up in their sunk cost fallacy, stuck with this guy, and so scared of their own voters that if they speak the truth to them, that they will be the ones that get thrown out, like Liz Cheney or Jeff Flake and the others before them. And so that's the situation that they're in. And so they have to come up with these preposterous defenses about how, Mar-a-Lago, you can't just walk into a bathroom. People realize bathrooms locked from the inside, right? Like somebody needs to be in there. They don't lock from the outside, but all this absurdity is their way of getting around having to say the reality, which is the guy that they've put their whole political career and trusted in for the past 8 years, has been caught red-handed with quite sensitive docs, not just random classified docs, not just Kim Jong-un love letters, like literal war plans.
Max, isn't this really, for these Republicans, the positions they're taking about self-interest? Mitt Romney, he could win no matter what. He'll win his election no matter what. He can be critical of Donald Trump. Kevin McCarthy, he could lose his seat. He can't. But Republicans who won in Joe Biden flavored district, they are conspicuously quiet right now.
Well, first of all, they're in an awful situation, right? Even in districts that Joe Biden won, there's still a Trumpian base, and there's still a Republican primary, and they're cognizant of that. And of course, on the same hand, in 2024, these incumbents will have to win voters who are also voting for Joe Biden. So it's a lose-lose situation, which means that it is vital for the Democratic Party to push.
On what?
On the fact that they are so silent. It is almost as egregious as Tim's outfit right now.
That is not an egregious outfit. You were right. He was writing you about this outfit during the commercial. He thinks you're too casual. He is not dressed casually. He is wearing formal pearls. You're welcome to do the same.
I thought there was a dress code. Apparently there's not. But
there is. There is a dress code, and he is winning it.
So look, the fact that they aren't saying anything, which actually, if you look at the numbers in many of these districts, is an awfully stupid thing to do, because Republican votes will come around to them, but they have to consistently prove their independence to these quote-unquote swing Biden voters. But it would be so essential right now for the Democratic Party to come out, call them out by name. Joe Biden call them out by name and say, what are your thoughts? Why don't you do anything? And what's interesting is that the second that Democrats actually call them out, they are stuck even more, because then if they say something, they're caving to Democratic pressure. This is exactly what Donald Trump did during impeachment. This is exactly what the Republican Party did continually to Democrats, such as myself, representing Republican districts. Democrats need to wake up and do the same to these Republicans.
But of course, if Joe Biden weighs in, then he's going to get the huge criticism that he's getting entangled in a Department of Justice issue and politics and not running the country. I do want to share something that former VP candidate Sarah Palin of Alaska said today. She was asked if Trump supporters could be considered a cult. Watch this.
No, the definition of a cult is a group of people who are excessively supporting one another and a cause all about conformity and compliance and intolerance of anyone who doesn't agree with what their mission is.
Okay, we like to say here that the truth matters, but only if you see it. So let's take a look at some video while we review, think back on what Sarah Palin said. Quote, here's what she said. People who are excessively supporting one another and a cause all about conformity and compliance and intolerance of anyone who doesn't agree with what their mission is. Tim, are you watching that video? Are you listening to Sarah Palin's words? How do you respond to that?
She's so close to getting it, Steph. She's just so close. Look, this is just the reality, unfortunately, of this MAGA bubble, is that it has gotten so thick that it's really hard to break through. And I think this actually ties together both of the questions we're talking about, right? Well, can Sarah not see that she's describing MAGA voters? Well, it's the same reason why can't Republican politicians who do see the truth tell MAGA voters the truth? It's because that bubble has become so thick, the media bubble that they're in, that it's impenetrable. And so in order to maintain political power, they have to continue to pander to people who are in the, let's call it what it is, a cult.
What do you think?
If the Republican Party united against Donald Trump, I do sincerely believe that they can defeat Donald Trump while also maintaining somewhat of an electoral future. Perhaps even that could be a more substantive electoral future because they would win independence. What's scary, though, is consistently what we see amongst Republicans, Kevin McCarthy on down, is an absolute absence of courage, an absolute absence of moral leadership. And it begs the question, what are they actually so afraid of? I've
being out of a job.
Well, look, I've lost an election. I've won elections. Life goes on. The sun comes up. They should understand that. But what they're sacrificing is not just, potentially this country's future, but they're also sacrificing their own legacy. They're going to have to look back on their career and say, I had an opportunity to stand up for democracy and against perhaps the most dangerous fascist leader that this country has ever seen, political leader, political figure, and they failed to do a damn
And do you know
thing.
why they're not? Because they're saying, well, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, and Jeff Flake are saying that sitting at a Denny's together.
Maybe they're a nicer place than Denny's, but
I happen to love Denny's. But listen, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but that's unfortunately the reality, this massive fear of what would my life look like if I wasn't in office.
No, I actually don't think that that's correct here, because if they all jumped, this has been the contradiction of the Republican Party since day one of the Trump era of politics. If they all jumped together, they would win. They would defeat Donald Trump. They would defeat this rather evil thread in our politics today. But their inability to not only show that moral courage, but also just any semblance of coordination is what will potentially lead, more likely than not, to yet another Donald Trump nomination. And that's what makes this next presidential election all that much more important.
Powerful thoughts. I disagree with Max Rose on Tim's pearls and T-shirt and his view of Denny's, but everything else, really powerful stuff.